So what I said, that in rural areas due to hardship, the calorie requirement to survive is more of an individual than urban area. But you will find that to satisfy this calorie requirement, whatever food intake an individual requires in rural area, if they need to buy this, the amount of income they have to get is less than compared to the urban areas. Even with less requirement of energy, they should require less food to get this much of energy, and to avail that food item, the income they require is more. So there is a contradiction between the food or calorie requirement and the amount of income they require to get this calorie requirement. And why this arises? So according to normal thinking, if rural area require more calorie intake, they have to buy food, and the value of these foods, whatever it will be, it should require more money. So a person should have more income than the urban area, because there the requirement is less. So the amount of money to purchase it should be less. But you can see just the opposite. Now why this happens? Because of difference in cost of living. In rural areas, in order to avail those minimum requirements of food, the amount of income a person needs is less because the things are cheaper over there. But to avail lesser units of energy, the food items which an urban individual lives cost more, and that's why they need a higher income. So the poverty line is not same, it is different. 250 for rural, let us suppose this is an example, and 300 rupees an individual should earn in urban area in order to lead a life not under below poverty line category. So a person in rural area, if he earns 250 rupees, then he is lying in the APL zone, and if he earns less than, he is in the PPL zone. Similarly, in urban area, you need rupees 300 minimum income for consumption expenditure over the minimum food requirements to get minimum energy, and if you are getting more than that, you are under APL, and if you are getting less than that, you are under BPL. So the income requirement is more for urban, and that defines the poverty line, and this is the comparable income in rural area defining the poverty line over here. And so what you can conclude from this picture, that the poverty line is not same everywhere. It differs because the income needed, minimum income that defines the line, is different, somewhere higher and somewhere lower, in order to divide the population into these two categories of APL and BPL. Now suppose I have taken an example, a person is earning 280 in urban area. So when he is earning 280, which is less than 300, he falls in the BPL category because he doesn't have the income to meet up the calorie requirement of 2100 calories. But if that person comes to rural area with that income, he is no longer in the BPL category. With that income, he will obviously lie in the APL because his earning is more than 250. So he can lead a better life over here because he has enough income to at least fulfill the minimum requirement staying in the rural area. So this is the relation we can draw. A person, if he is BPL in this urban area, he is going to be BPL in rural area and in all country, you cannot say. He can be, the same person can be falling under APL category somewhere else. Similarly, the poor of the developed nations, you will see, they come to less developed countries. Why? Because they are poor, they cannot reach the cost of living. They don't have that much of income which the other people enjoys in the developed countries. So they are regarded poor over there. But when they shift to less developed countries due to difference in cost of living, whatever income they have earned, they feel that they can enjoy with it because that is much above the basic requirements. They can fulfill the basic requirements and can attain the luxurious things in life which they cannot do when they are residing in the developed nations. Now, coming to the measurements of poverty, there are two measurements. One is absolute and the other is relative measurement. Now, absolute, from the word you can understand, absolute means who is absolutely poor or who is actually poor. And he is not compared with anybody. He is just compared, the individual is just compared with the poverty line. That where is his existence? How deep is the poverty? How much poverty gap is there? What is poverty gap? This is the minimum income requirement which is defined by poverty line, and how much less than this minimum requirement he is lying. So absolute poverty means you are measuring how deep the person is poor and you are comparing with the poverty line, that is the minimum requirement of income that a person should have to at least fulfill his calorie requirement. But when we talk about relative, relative means we are drawing relation with, in relation to the other. We are drawing a comparison. Suppose, just for an example, suppose somebody is earning rupees 100, somebody is earning rupees 80 and somebody is earning rupees 30. So, I am only talking about this person who earns rupees 80. Now, according to this person, he is richer than the person who is earning rupees 30. He is richer than him. But when you compare him with this person who earns more income, he is poorer than the other. So the world is actually known by comparison. Now if there is a tall person, so he feels that he is taller than others in the class. But if he comes near a person who is even taller, he feels that he is shorter. So basically, you cannot say he is the tallest because he is tall compared to the others. But when you involve him and compare him with somebody else, where the class comprises of all tall persons, he will find himself short. So similarly, there are people having different levels of income. Now the person who earns rupees 50,000 in a month, he is not actually poor. He can avail many things and he is in a better living condition than the person who is earning rupees 20,000. But when he looks at the salary of other individual who earns 1 lakh rupees or 1.5 lakh rupees per month, he feels as if he is poor. It's a kind of feeling. But it does not describe how acute is the poverty. Is he suffering from acute poverty? No. When he is comparing, he feels that he earns very less income. He cannot have all the luxurious things of life and he earns pretty less. It's a feeling. But actually, can you call him poor? No, because he, with his income, can satisfy the basic requirements of life and he even have enough money. So, relative measure only compares a person's income to the other. It only compares different people in different income strata. So if you always compare, obviously there will be people having a higher income. You will feel as if you are poor. But actually you are not suffering from poverty because you are in a state of at least fulfilling the basic requirements. So if there is a comparison that which method of poverty calculation is better, obviously absolute, because absolute method looks how acute is the problem. It compares not with anybody but with the minimum income requirement which is mentioned by the poverty line. Minimum income requirement that should be of a person, and with that you are comparing. But relative means you are comparing different people of different income strata. If you obviously compare, even after drawing a salary of rupees 50,000, if you feel you are poor, yes, you are poor than a person who is earning 1 lakh. But actually, do you think a person earning 50,000 is poor? Definitely not, because he can satisfy his basic needs. So from relative measurement, we cannot look that how deep is the poverty. Only absolute measure can give us this answer of acuteness of poverty. Now we are coming to the main area of focus, causes of poverty. Now everywhere cause and effect relation exist. Poverty is the effect or the result. Poverty is the effect or the result of many things which are going together. So now we will know what are the causes that lead to this effect, where we can see that poverty has become a crucial problem. So I have written all the causes and I will explain one by one. Number 1 is low national income. So as I said, that poverty is mainly the problem of the developing or less developed countries. Now in less developed countries, why they are called less developed? Because their income level is very less, and this less income is due to the fact that there is less productive activities or less production. Now you all know every country or every economy, they engage in some productive activities, production of goods and services, finally sell these products and services in the market, and then in return accumulates income. So if production is low, then obviously the income that is translated after sale should be low. So this less income is a result of less production, and when this less national income is distributed among the individuals, then each are supposed to get less and remain poor. So this is the first cause of poverty, low national income, and low national income is due to low production in these economies, and when this income is distributed among the nationals of the country, about the population, then per capita or per head income is pretty low, for which they are suffering from poverty, and they cannot satisfy all the basic necessities required. Number 2, low growth of national income. Now here what I said, low national income. Here I am telling low growth of national income. So suppose the national income, I am taking just a imaginary figure. Suppose the national income over here is 10 crores. And in the next year, it becomes 12 crores. So can you see that the income growth has taken place? An income growth of 2 crore have taken place. Why this income growth have taken place? Obviously, the production have gone up. But has it gone up to the considerable amount? Has the income increased in a considerable amount? Because the population is very large. When this amount will be distributed, people will not be, per capita income will not be too high. So the income growth should be much higher in the countries in order to escape the poverty, so that per person income becomes more. People are able to come out of the poverty, fulfill their needs. So already I have said that there is low national income, and not only that, the income, if any country is suffering from low national income, what they will try? They will try to increase production and increase income. They are also trying in the same way. But the growth in income is pretty low, and that's why the per person income after distribution remains low, and they are unable to come outside poverty. They are within this poverty trap. Number 3 is massive unemployment. Now, on one hand, you know that people are poor. So what do they need? They need employment in order to get a job, and then at least earn the basic requirements so that they can fulfill the basic necessities. But I already said that these economies have less income because of less production. And if production is not increasing that much, or output is not increasing that much, now for production or output only you need human labor. You absorb the labor. So production or output, if it increases, then labor absorption happens faster and people gets employment, they come out of poverty. But when production or output is less, that is why their income is less. And when it is happening in very less amount, or it is growing in a very slow rate, then it is unable to absorb or give employment to every individual in the population. So the labor requirement increases, but at a very lesser rate. It fails to absorb the entire population into the existing job structure. And so people remains unemployed, and that means they are suffering from poverty. Number 4, high growth rate of population. On one side you have poverty, people are poor. This situation is aggravated. The problem becomes crucial because of unemployment of the existing population, and there is again growth rate of population. That means new individuals are entering. Birth rate is too high in the less developed countries. So population is increasing. So what will happen? One side poverty, unemployment of the existing people, and if population increases at a higher rate, then new people will be coming in the poverty trap, because the existing people were suffering. They are unable to get a job. They are unable to come out of poverty. How can new people, when they come, will get to avail? And another problem arises when population size increases. The income is divided between more number of heads. So each will get even lower than before. So instead of coming out of poverty, they are falling deep into the poverty trap. Let me explain this with an example. Suppose rupees 100 rupees is there. You are dividing between 10 individuals. So each are supposed to get 10 rupees. But if this 100 rupee is divided and now population increases, means from 10 it becomes 20. So each are going to have now rupees 5. So what has happened? The population growth have resulted in aggravating the crisis of poverty. Earlier each were getting rupees 10, which is pretty less. They are not able to come out of poverty. They should try what? They should try to control population and increase the income. Controlling population means instead of 10 heads, making it 5, and increasing the income means instead of 100, the country's income should be 200. Then only they each can get 40, which is a sharp rise from 10, and they can come out of poverty. But just opposite is happening. income is not increasing at a faster rate or even sometimes stagnant, remains at same, but population is entering, so it is divided by more number of individual and they are entering, each person is getting lesser and lesser income and they are entering into deep poverty problem. Then next is inflation. You all know that inflation means price rise of the product. Now just now I have said that output production or production is very less. That means output or supply of the commodities are less in the market. On the other side, I have already said population is growing. So population is growing means demand for these goods are going up at a higher rate. So what is happening when supply is less? That means there is shortage of product. But there are many people who are creating demand for those commodities. So can you satisfy everybody's need? You cannot. So what do? You increase the price of the product so that those who will be able to afford, they can only buy. So what happens? Inflation takes place because the output or supply is less in those countries. Population creates a demand pressure and it results in adjusting the price of the product, which goes upward. And when the price goes upward, another problem starts. People want, they are demanding for the good, but they are unable to get the good. They are lying unsatisfied. So what happens? Their purchasing power drops. When the price becomes higher, the good that they earlier demanded now cannot demand because they don't have that much of purchasing power. So which results in entitlement, failure, and they cannot buy the commodity and they are actually staying under poverty. For example, suppose I used to buy pulses at ₹50, but now what happened? 1 kg of pulses cost me ₹50. Now what happened? The supply is very limited, but population when increases, they will create a demand for food pressure. So pressure on food will result in increasing the price of food. So from ₹50 it has become ₹80. Now what will happen? I had 50 rupees to purchase pulses, but when it has become 80, it is beyond my means and capabilities. So I have to stay without pulse. And when I am not having pulses, I am not having a balanced diet or the nutrient requirement. I will try to fulfill it with some inferior product. So I am unable, slowly I am becoming unable to attain the purchasing power required to come out of poverty to fulfill my basic calorie requirement. Then lack of infrastructure. Now infrastructure is of two types. One is economic infrastructure, that is roads and railways and all other networkings that helps you to connect with the other areas, and the other is social infrastructure like public hospitals and education system. Now these are lacking over here. When economic infrastructure lacks, what happens? When there is less number of roads and networkings, what happens? Even if these countries want to produce, suppose they have to get the raw materials from outside, they cannot think of, because the connectivity is very poor. So when they are not getting the raw materials, they are unable to produce. So they lie in this zone, less production, less income. And there are other countries who are interested, like FDIs, who are interested to come, but they will only come if networking is better. If there is easy and fast networking, nobody will want to open a business somewhere where there is cart track or pack tracks which are half of the year water loaded. The connectivity becomes poor to the other parts of the country. So what happens? The development, aerial development of these areas become lesser and lesser the production capabilities also shrinks. Then social infrastructure, what is their requirement? Public hospitals, they help you to get health facilities at a lesser amount of money, and education system enriches you and makes the future generation better. So they can think about new ideas of production, they can learn technical skills and participate in the production process. But due to lack of health facilities and lack of education, a person becomes unsuitable for future job prospects, because if you don't have health, nobody is going to hire you because you cannot bear the physical strain of work. And if you don't have education or training, they will not hire you because you don't have anything to add value or contribute in the production process. So due to lack of these infrastructures, the development of these areas are less, and so the production or absorption into job is less, and that ultimately results in poverty. Unequal distribution of income and wealth. Now, what I said here, that the nation's income is divided in average. That means when I divide it by total population, each gets the same amount. But do you think actually it happens? Everybody's income is different. Why? Because your income depends on your participation in the production process. Whatever the nation is earning, it is divided. It is distributed among the people. For simplicity, we take that each individual gets equal amount. It is distributed equally. But definitely it does not happen, because the income is distributed according to your contribution, how much you have taken part in the production process to generate income for the country. So there are people earning more income because their contribution has been higher, and there are people who are having less contribution. So obviously there will be income difference. Those who have participated in the production process more, contributed more, and resulted in increase of national income, they will get higher income at the end. And people's contribution being less, they will get lower income. So this disparity exists, this income difference or wealth, which we call, that is the amount of property you have, amount of money you have, gold you have. So all these are different, assets are different, income is different, and that disparity keeps on growing. Poor becomes poorer and poorer, and rich becomes richer and richer. And why this happens? The rich are able, with its income, able to nourish themselves, able to get proper medication and help, get proper education, and they will only find job in future. Their sons and daughters, they will try to educate and they will get job. And what will happen to the poor? They are unable to fulfill the minimum requirements. Their son or daughter also, they will not be able to educate, and in future also they cannot get out of poverty, because their son or daughter will also find very minimum level job, or they cannot be absorbed because they lack many things, either health or education properly. So the rich becomes richer and poor becomes poorer, and the drift continues and people enter into deep poverty. So this is known as class difference or class struggle takes place. One becomes the affluent class and the other falls in the poverty class. This is also known as have and have-nots. Have means all those who have everything. Have-nots means the poor people, those who don't have much things. Then, not included in planning. You all know that Indian government have a planning process. That means 5-year planning. They plan what are the things of focus, what are the areas of focus of the government, and the next 5 years they work according to the plan. So when poverty was problem, when poverty should have been given importance, they have neglected it in the first 3 plans. But when the poverty problem became crucial, when its elimination is impossible, and that is the time the planning process involved or included poverty as a focus area. So when the problem begins, we try to solve it at its root. But Indian government have not incorporated poverty as a problem and not a area of focus. So they have allowed the problem to grow, and when it became an acute problem and a problem which cannot be eliminated, that is the time it was incorporated. So it was a wrong time when poverty was paid attention to. So it has resulted in further increasing the acuteness of the problem. And the last is faulty poverty alleviation program. So what the government did, they incorporated planning in the fourth 5-year plan. Before that they have not included, and they have included and made many poverty alleviation programs. Poverty alleviation means poverty reduction programs. Like you have known PDS, Public Distribution System, NREGA, National Rural Employment Generation Act. Then during this time, that Atmanirbhar Bharat. So there are many programs time to time created by the government to uplift the people from the poverty. But what is the problem? They are faulty. Faulty means they are only target oriented. They cannot take out the problem from its root. For example, suppose there are many people who are unemployed. And what do the government do? They give unemployment allowance. How much they can give? They can give, suppose per person who are unemployed, they are giving 5,000. So they thought that they have eliminated the problem of poverty. But a person who is unemployed, he is getting 5,000, he can meet his requirement. But if other members in his family are also dependent on him, so with 5,000, can he meet everybody's requirement? No. So they will be still in the poverty trap only. So government is actually doing things on average. They are giving unemployment benefit, but they are not looking into the facts that how much allowance they need. A person who is single can suffice with 5,000, but a person who have dependent parents, dependent child, then can they do with 5,000? No. So is government able to eradicate poverty totally? No. Again, I am giving another example like NREGA. It guarantees employment to one member of the rural family, 100 days employment. But 100 days employment, do you think will able to help him get out of poverty? A year consists of 365 days. So by giving 100 days employment, can the person's poverty be entirely eradicated? No, it's a temporary solution to the problem.